check, sound check, screen check. Audio check, sound check, 1, 2, 3, 4. Audio check, 1, 2, 3, 4. Audio check, sound check, 1, 2, 3, 4. Good morning and good evening to all of you. This is our trainer here. We are now ready. In tonight's session, we will continue further with the data modeling and to advance into the security authorization for those data models with analytic privilege, package privilege, object privilege, system privilege, and application privilege. After which, later, we will be able to learn how we can create our own user IDs and be able to connect from a reporting tool into HANA for that view. So first, we go to our package. Now the list of the packages that you see here, you can also apply a filter if you have a particular naming standard that you have applied. For example, here we're seeing other packages like sales, others, so you can apply a filter on your content, apply filter, and put your Z underscore. So you now see only those packages which are filtered with that filter value Z underscore. So we go to our package, sub-package, and then yesterday we were able to create the analytic privilege. Let's open it. This particular analytic privilege is applied to these two views. So whenever a reporting user tries to create a query or a
Muted.
Or let's go with the city, for example. Value equals Texas TX search. Yep. So in a conditional restriction, if there is a user who is allowed for a department number 555 and then a further sub-department of 05, in those cases you can perform such kind of restriction. In our example, we are restricting for country US and for city equals Texas. Validate, activate. Now, the assignment of the Untitled privilege is conducted in the security folder. Assignment meaning granting that Untitled privilege to a reporting user. In our example yesterday, we had a user which is over here, tech user 20, as a random user that we were able to pick up, and we assigned this Untitled privilege. Yep. And then yesterday we also pick up a role and assigned the Untitled privilege to a given role, right? Right here. So the assignment is done in the security folder, after which we go back to the content, go back to the Untitled privilege, open the definition, and have a look here into the cross tab. And here we see those two grantees or recipients. It could be a user directly receiving the authorization or a user group receiving the authorization. So it could be reporting user roles likewise. Now, in order to understand the user roles concept, I have prepared a slide show which will help us to understand a basic awareness on user management and roles management in SAP HANA. This particular slideshow will also give you an area about certain best practices steps to be followed by a security consultant or a HANA application consultant or a HANA basis administrator. The SNA, or Security Authorization, is also the other important factor for your successful implementation of your data models. Here we have a step-by-step, a best practice. Certain administrators or consultants may want to create a user first and then a role later. It's okay, but the best practice is to have a role defined first, step one. So when you define a role, let's say, for example, developer role, administrator role, reporting user role, likewise, then n number of users can come in and go out depending upon the project agreements, but the role will still exist. You'll have a developer role throughout the project. You will have a reporting role throughout the project. Reporting by the end user, another role. Report writer, developer, another role. So role will always be there in the system irrespective of the user IDs. So in certain projects, certain consultants create users and then later think about the roles, which is not a good practice. So the good practice or the best practice is to first define what roles will be existing in that project. So we'll commonly have developer roles, end user role, report writer, report developer role. Then you will have a security role, a transport role, and an administrator role. These are some of the common roles that have to be created. So once the roles are defined, created, then we start assigning the privileges to the roles. So a developer will only have developer rights. Maybe not transport, maybe not administration, maybe not doing any reporting. So developer who is only going to develop a packages, application views, likewise, will only have those rights. Similarly for a consultant working with the administration. So once the privileges are assigned to the roles, then we can start creating user IDs. In HANA, there are certain standard users which could be used for configuration connections. In our training environment, so far till today, we have all been using the system user ID, but maybe not the case in our future real projects. We will have our own user IDs. We may not be authorized to work with the system administrator user IDs. So how we create our own user IDs and how we assign, we will see that tonight. And after the user IDs are created, you can start granting the roles to the user. And plus, if the user leaves the project or it's been
muted.
The screenshot as follows. First, you create a role. To the security folder, roles, and right-click and select a new role from the context menu. There's also another alternative approach by using the SQL console, where we can create a user or create a role with the create command. This is an alternative approach, but it's better to use a graphical approach to create users and roles. Assignment of the roles as follows. We will see how we do that in the system. And then we create a user going back to the security folder, right-click, new user. And then later, finally, after user IDs are okay, you're following a password policy, then we start granting roles to the user. When you start granting roles to the user, or start granting authorization objects to roles or user groups or individual users, there will be a right-hand side checkbox that indicates is it grantable to other users or roles. With this checkbox, if you select this checkbox, the recipient user becomes a grantor for other grantees. Meaning, for example, let me put this screen on blank. For example, there is a user. Let's talk about the development team first. There is a team leader, user, who is responsible for all technical developments. And the team leader has received certain roles from the administrator for the project. For example, development roles, then transport roles, and maybe certain other administrative roles. So team leader has awareness for both the administration, development, and other system transport and other administrative skill sets. So now the team leader has a developer or a application consultant joining in. So let's put here AC, application consultant, joins to that team. So this application consultant will only have developer role because this application consultant will create packages and views. Now there is another application consultant who has awareness for both development and administration. So this developer, this user will have both the developer and administration roles. So for this user, for this second user, number 2, the team leader already has other roles being granted. So a team leader can start granting selective roles that this team leader has in his profile to the developer users. So the team leader user will receive certain roles, and team leader user can also become the grantor for other grantees. All right? So we don't have to every time go back to the security team, hey, there is a new user, but this is the user ID, can you guarantee user IDs with this role for development and transport? So for example, you have to mail, and then you have to wait, and then the security team will check based upon their convenience, and there are certain check rules, and then they apply it. Well, that's okay, but in certain development, you require immediate user to have immediate development rights. So sometimes a senior consultant or solution architect with the development team will possess all of these roles in his profile in the HANA user, and that developer, that architect user can start granting some of his roles to other user IDs. It's possible. So it gives the flexibility to the team to also own certain roles, not the production end user roles, but the development, which makes things more easier and no more waiting here as well for development rights. So a grantee can become a grantor for other granted objects. And then we can also revoke a role out of the user if the user is not going to run some developments. So we have to go into the user definition, go into the granted role, select, and just click on remove. Confirm yes, and that's how it goes off. If the user has already other roles, it will also be revoked. It's a cascading effect. Now, certain security consultants or administrators, or maybe application consultants, may require some of these useful statements. I've collected it from the experience, and this is quite useful. We can already do that in graphical, but sometimes it is handy to have these statements. For example, you want to check how many times the user tried to connect but failed to connect. Maybe this is required before you're going live. You have given a user ID for an end user, and end user tried to connect but failed many times. So a audit requires a small report how many times the user failed to connect, so that they want to check some of the user settings, etc. Maybe another user ID got locked because the user ID tried to connect 3 times or more and not successful. Therefore, the user ID becomes locked. So how do you reset? Yep, so that's the second command here. Alter username, reset connect attempt. So it could also happen that when you create your own user IDs and try and connect but failed many times, let's say 3 or 5 times, there is also a parameter setting. So if you fail for 5 times or 3 times, the user gets locked. So how do you unlock? Send this command, alter user ID, reset connect attempts. Force password change right now. Deactivate user right now. Reactivate the user with a new password. And disable password lifetime. So these are some of the statements that may help you in your future projects to run user management. Let's go to the privileges, certain privileges that are to be created, certain privileges that are to be selected. When you are creating a role, you have to grant these privileges to the roles, and then the roles are granted to the users. In SAP HANA, there are 5 categories of privileges, meaning there are 5 groups of authorizations. The first is the system privileges for system authorizations, and they are for system administrators. So for a basis consultant of the SAP basis administrator or the DBA, database administrator, or maybe a solution architect, enterprise architect working on system settings, backup, recovery, diagnosis, tracing users, all of those activities require system privileges for system administrative tasks. So, administrator, system privileges. Object privileges for all or any user in HANA with a database object restriction. For example, if I'm a developer and I'm only allowed to select from a table but not delete the table, quite possible, yeah? So we can grant only select for the table but not delete or drop a table in HANA because I'm a developer, for example. So we don't want a user to go into HANA and start deleting all the tables, right? Or dropping all the values of the tables, or deleting all the views. So we can control those activities with the object privilege. Okay, just hold on. Audio check. Audio check. audio check, sound check. Can anybody give a presentator? Right. I was muted again. Okay, so we are here in this slide. The first group of authorization is for the system administrators, which allows a administrator user to maintain backup and the transport and diagnosis and tracing users, certain configuration settings at the system level. So this is the system administrative privileges. The second one is the object privileges for any user in HANA with a selective authorization to a table or view or maybe to a schema. So we want to allow a reporting user to only have select but not delete. We want a developer application consultant to have select, alter, update, but maybe not delete. And then we can grant the delete only to solution architects, for example. The third type of the privilege is the analytic privilege for the reporting user at a particular object level filter condition or restriction condition. Cost center, profit center, department IDs, company code, etc. Then the fourth is the package privilege. This is for a application consultant developing views and packages. So this will give the development rights to create views, packages, activate views, delete the views, and further create sub-packages. So all of those are controlled by the package privilege. The fifth is the application privilege, which is newly added for future apps which are running or which will be running on HANA. For example, ERP on HANA, CRM on HANA, BW on HANA likewise. So these are 5 categories of privileges or 5 categories of authorization objects in HANA. Moving further to the concept of the AP analytic privilege, yesterday we were able to create our first analytic privilege, and without an analytic privilege a user will not be able to visualize the views at the reporting layer. And we can have a field level security based upon the cost center, profit center, controlling area number, company code, etc. We can apply the analytic privilege from a field coming from the attribute view, or field from attribute view which is used in the analytic view, or a private field or local field from the analytic view, or maybe from a calculation view, or any combination of the above. Single value range, all applicable. So the steps to create the analytic privilege that we've seen yesterday was to go into our folder package and create an analytic privilege from there. What's also given here is that all the activated APs will belong to the sys repo. Just like all activated views belong to _sys_BIC, likewise, all analytic privileges, whenever they are activated, belongs to _sys_repo. It could be a certification exam question, fill up the blank, or match the following type questions in your certifications. The sysrepo is both a container schema and the most powerful HANA administrator user used for installing HANA and its software agents. So _sys_repo is the most powerful standard HANA user. Then comes system user, sys user, and other standard users. So you may want to have sysrepo, some authorization from the sysrepo for your development projects in future projects. Then moving on to the next, which is the package privilege, will allow the user to create packages, sub-packages, and views and activate those views in it. Today, so far, when we log into Studio, we can open any package. We can see any content of the package. We can go ahead and even delete those views in it. But that's because we're using a administrative user. But in real-time projects, it could be something different. In real-time projects, we may have access to only a few packages and not the rest of all the other 50 packages, for example. So the control of the visibility of the content of the package is controlled by repo.read, authorization object of package privilege. So if we have a repo.read, we can see the content of any given packages or sub-packages. If we don't have repo.read, the package looks like it's created, but when you try and expand, it will not show any views in that package. So maybe the user will feel that the package is empty, but not in the real case, because the user have to have repo read to see the content of the package or sub-packages. Similarly, the repo.read allows the user to see the definition or any formula given in that views or sub-packages or the primary package. So repo read controls the visibility of the content of the given package. Then repo.edit allows the user to go ahead and make changes, modify the definition of the views, delete the views, create new views in that given package. So in some of the real-time projects, maybe POC, pilot projects, real implementation projects, a application consultant may not have all the rights to work with all the packages. Some package only read. Some package read and change. So for the read and change, you may have authorization with the repo.edit native objects. So you can go ahead and change, delete it. And then to be able to activate a view in a given package, a developer should have this object, the third one, repo.activate _ native _ object. So if you don't have activation rights, you may be only authorized to create views, delete views, validate views, but not be able to activate the views. In some of the Fortune 100 clients, a lot of HANA application consultants may not have the right to activate the views in Fortune 50 clients. Again, those are controlled by SAP consultants themselves. But the rest of the other Global 1000 companies, you can go ahead and create your own views and activate, no problem. And even maintain sub-packages or create sub-packages with this authorization object, repo.maintain _ native _ packages. This slide is very important for your interviews and certification examination, whether you're writing the administrator examination certification or application consultant certification. You'll have question for match the following, choose the right option, which authorization object controls which activity. Okay, let's go out of this slideshow. Let's go into the system. So we're here at the studio. We start with the security folder. We will start creating our first user IDs. So in order to create our user IDs, we go here to the users, right-click here, and select the new user. Please follow the steps. You can practice later after the session. We will give a user naming standard with a Z user underscore our initials. Right, so I'm going to give here PR for my name initials. When you give a user ID, to the right-hand side there is a checkbox which says restricted user, yes or no. If it's selected, it becomes restricted user. If not selected, it becomes a global user. So the difference between a restricted user and a global user is to allow single sign-on. So if your user ID is created in HANA with a restricted user type, it cannot be integrated outside of HANA with single sign-on with any other external systems. So please make a note, if you're a security consultant, make sure that your reporting users should always be created as a global user without selecting this option for reporting users. And if your user IDs that you're creating have to be a local developer, in that case, you may select this checkbox. Now, we want to integrate our user ID here, Z user PR, with the other external systems, especially from the reporting side. So we just give the user ID, and then we select this first checkbox, which is password. Now, when you put the mouse pointer here, it will ask you to follow a password policy. All administrators, solution architects, application consultants are advised to pre-check what is the password policy of a given system. Well, these are not part of the academics, but it will help you with your project engagements. So in order to find out the password policy, I believe some of you have practiced, you can go into the catalog folder, public synonyms, and find, just type here password. And then you'll be able to see the password policy table, which is m underscore password underscore policy. You see here, force first password change equal to true, which means that when that user ID logged in for the first time, when that new user ID logs in for the first time, it will be prompted to change the password to a personal password. Yeah? And other settings and lengths and other details, password policy here. Follow that policy and create your user ID with the corresponding password. So I'm going to give here a initial password and confirm that here. And then we have option to select whether the user needs to be a valid from a particular time to a particular time, so from and to. So if the user is going to be working in the system for 90 days or for a 3 months project, and after 3 months the user ID should be locked or invalid or expired in the system, so you can maintain that time range. The session client here in the next box is only applicable if we have a user ID which is going to connect or work on SAP source systems, where there are client numbers concept, client number 100, 200, 300, 800, like those. And if a user is only to be working with a specific client number, you're going to specify it here. If you leave it blank, it becomes cross-client user. And you must leave it blank if you're using a solution architect access, or you're working with other non-SAP sources, you must leave it blank. But if it is specific that the developer should only have a right to particular client number, in that case you can come back and assign the client number here. But better to leave it blank, because it's better to have a cross-client. Otherwise, you can assign the client number. Now, at the lower portion of the screen, you have multiple tabs. It's given here, granted roles, the first tab. Now, this user ID, ZUserPR, does not have any roles granted here so far, because we've not granted any roles. But by default, remember, by default, when a user ID is created in the system in HANA, there is a public role which will be automatically assigned. Let's scroll down to public role here. In the left-hand side of the screen, under roles, under security folder, you have this role, public role, which will be automatically assigned. And this public role allows the user to have certain public access, maybe just see but not change or delete or activate or export, just to see, just for read access, for some few public area or public tables, etc. So please make another note that whenever a user is activated in HANA, by default, the public role becomes granted automatically. Okay? Let's check. I'm going to deploy this user. And you see here public role automatically granted to this user ID. A very frequent and a common certification examination question. And this public role is not grantable to other users. Okay? So what it means here is that this public role is an auto-assigned role, and this user cannot become a grantor for this object public role, because public role is always granted by sys standard user. Now we're seeing another user ID called SYS. Let's go back to our POC document. In this POC document, we have here certain user groups like a developer, end user, programmer, administrator. We also have other user groups like sysrepo, system, sys. These are standard users in HANA. They have their own standard roles predefined. The most powerful standard HANA user is this underscore sys underscore repo. And that user ID is owned by the hardware vendor. For any installation, configuration, setup of the enterprise server, or any repair, maintenance, and remediations. Next is the system user, which will have the almost equal super authorization, but not all. System user cannot be used for installation, upgrade. It can be used for certain repair and remediations and tracing, etc. The third is the sys user. Okay. So this is another important point for your certification exam. Maybe for an interview, which is the most powerful HANA standard user? They may ask you, system, true, false. It is false. System is not the most powerful HANA standard user. It is the sysrepo. Just remember the point. Yep. So let's go back to the studio. So now we have public role granted to this user automatically by sys as a grantor and is not grantable to other user by ZPR user because it is a public role. Public role is only granted by sys SYS user. Another very frequent certification exam question. Now, let's go back up here. We see certain checkboxes. Certain checkboxes, like for example here, Kerberos, SAML, X509, and ticket users. These are the other user IDs which are created outside of HANA with certain intermediate systems. For example, Kerberos. The Kerberos user ID is created somewhere in KDC, Kerberos domain controller, by the network administrator. A network administrator is like a system administrator, but they work with the network security, network authentication protocols, a client-server communication, holding a user request before it hits the server. So there are so many other network-level Cisco software configuration control mechanism. So there are multiple software and protocols and security agents which are in the network before the message or the request hits the server and vice versa. The Kerberos, for general knowledge, was the name of a project which was developed in the MIT some 11 years ago by research students from the security and the network authentication. In those days, it was around about client-server architecture and how we can protect the server before a client sends any random message. So around about 11, 12 years ago. It was the name of the project, Kerberos. Today, Kerberos is accepted in all of the universal systems, including SAP, and here in HANA as well. And Kerberos user is created in KDC and is generally defined for on-cloud interfaces. So maybe we have a private cloud, we're going to connect to the public cloud, and then you go into the virtual private cloud network security authorization, and then you have a network authentication protocol. That is the gateway. When you pass the gateway, then you're able to connect to the server production cloud or test cloud in the cloud host environments. So KDC is the agent for Kerberos for on-cloud user access. These users are created outside of HANA, and then we can assign the external ID of the KDC here in HANA for single sign-on, for various other reverse cloud access from the public to the private to the virtual private network of the on-premise systems. Next, SAML. SAML is a markup language authentication for all users who are using mobile apps. Today, mobile apps in Android, in iPhones, in other smartphones, the mobile apps are getting developed today as we speak to be able to connect to enterprise systems. A lot of mobile apps are connected to for certain social media and other lot of things are there in the mobile environment and ecosystem. But today, it's slowly starting to enter into connecting into SAP systems, Oracle systems, Microsoft BI systems, SQL Server systems, and other big data systems and other DB and OLTP systems. The mobile apps can directly connect and interface and interact with application systems. So for a mobile app user, the user ID gets created in the mobile app and it goes into the mobile server, and then the user ID is integrated from the mobile server with the SAML as a markup language authentication protocol. User ID created in the app, and then the app user try and connect to HANA through SAML, through PhoneGap, through SAP NetWeaver Gateway, through other third-party interfaces. So this is for mobile app user. Next is the X509 user IDs. For the ERP on HANA, where there are certain primary key, foreign key, encryption keys, and then there is a decryption logic. This is applicable only for secure transactions. You may also do a Google search with the X509. It is where there are encryption, decryption. The primary and foreign key is not what we have in database. Primary foreign key are to lock and open or to decrypt or to encrypt a transaction or a document or a communication between systems, especially SAP systems. When SAP ERP runs on HANA, CRM runs on HANA, SRM runs on HANA. So we may have, for example, in SRM, there is a procurement process where we are doing a live auction, and the bidder is sending a certain quotation that has to be secured, that has to be encrypted, so that the other bidder is not able to get the quotation, or maybe some other unknown sources. So all those encryption, decryption for any application, especially SAP applications running on HANA, is done through the X509. Next, logon ticket user 1, user 2. This is only when we have an OSS message to the SAP, meaning support message to the SAP. And the SAP wants to log on to our local HANA system. So how do we do it? Do we give our user ID? No. We have to create a OSS SAP logon ticket user for that time period, maybe 5 days, 5 hours, or a day. The logon ticket user 1. Logon ticket user 2, which is SAP assertion ticket, is for any upgrade activities or repair or maintenance tickets. So we're gone live, and then we are also looking for an upgrade, but we are hold up due to certain licensing and certain other, and we need a SAP support. We have raised a ticket to the SAP or a message to the SAP. They are asking us to create a user to be able to log on from the remote systems to here. So in those cases, we have these ticket users. So all these other users are created outside of HANA. The one which is created is through here. So authentication, select password, and you can create by assigning initial and confirming the password. This is where we only create a user in HANA, although the other 5 types can be configured here with respect to the other systems whenever they are created, connected. Yep. Now, let's go down to the lower portion once again with the granted roles. So we've seen that a public role automatically assigned. Let's also assign some standard roles of HANA. First, modeling. This is a standard SAP HANA role. Certain security consultants may be looking for standard roles where you can derive and create composite roles or individual roles. So the modeling role, standard role, is used for all data modeling activities. And we want this to the user. So click here plus and select modeling, or you can just type here modeling, select. Who is the grantor? Grantor is the user that we are logged in. Is it further grantable? Yes, it is. So it means that the modeling role is now received by the Z user PR and from system user, and when the ZPR user logs in, the modeling user that this user has got can be further granted to other users and roles. Next, standard role monitoring. The monitoring is for the system administrators to monitor the system performance, system transactions, connections. All right, so you want to assign this, for example. So far, so good. We're only selecting standard roles. Let's go to the next tab here, System Privileges, and select. Now you have multiple system standard privileges for administrative rights to the user, for auditing, for backup, for checking the catalog with all the schemas, for creating SDA, Smart Data Access Remote Sources. We'll learn that tomorrow. Then R script for data mining, R and L programming, which is now embedded in the predictive analysis tool. We'll learn about that in upcoming reporting session. Create scenario, schemas directly. So if you want to create a schema, you've got to first have this create schema authorization from the administrator, and then you can create a schema. We will also observe that for this user ID, that user PR, a user ID schema will be automatically created when this user logs on into the studio. Structured privileges for grant, grantee, grantor, and cascading grant. Credential admin allows the user to be able to reset the password of any user. Data admin for checking the data contents, previewing, exporting data to TXT, right? Export, import for the transports, for generic transports. We will have another session with the transports. INI file admin allows the administrator to configure the installation files. INI means installation files. So there could be certain factory level settings that you want to change or customize as a hardware vendor or as an administrator. We should have this right to be able to change. In our administration session for monitoring, we will also see how we come back here and configure certain installation files. License admin for renewing license, applying license keys. Log admin to be able to check the logs, export those logs for tracing and diagnosis with a Python scripting. Monitor admin allows the administrator to monitor the system performance, network in, network out, CPU performance, all of those. Optimizer admin allows the user to be able to optimize connection set parameters, port numbers. Repo dot, these objects are for special authorizations for transport management. Repo dot configure, repo dot export, import, deuse, modify, change, foreign contribution, own contribution, workspaces are only for special transport use cases. We will learn about that in our transport session. Maybe reverse transport for production back to the dev. You may have to have these in order to do those reverse transport, special transports. Resource admin to be able to maintain the stack of servers, network, bandwidth, connection parameters. Role admin to be creating roles and deleting roles and maintaining, extending roles. Save point for the backup with the save points, where there is a data save point, a log save point, and a configuration save points. Scenario admin with all the schemas. Service administration with all the services that are hosted by the SAP Host Agent 7.20. So there could be pre-processing services, real-time replication services, indexing services, extended services, compile services. These are all the services that are part of the HANA server services. So what is a server machine? A server machine is a machine that serves a lot of processes. Yep. Likewise, in the HANA Enterprise Server, There are a lot of services that are hosted by the SAP host agent from the HANA Enterprise server. So if you want to have access to that level of services at the server, you got to have this right. Session admin to be able to work with multiple sessions. Structured privileges. Administration, so if you want to assign with a grantor, having access to the grantee and other granted objects and want to revoke those, you got to have the structured privilege admin rights. Tenant admin for the DSL environment, distributed system landscaping, whereby you have a master node and multiple slave nodes for larger HANA systems, triple extra large HANA servers. Anything over 500 terabytes, 1 petabytes, 100 exabytes. You may have a scale-out approach with multiple nodes, which are dedicated nodes to a master node. So you may have to work with those tenants. In that case, this is for the administrator basis and vendors. Tracing admin, trace files, Python files, trust for all the connection certificates to BobJ, to replicator, to sources, to reporting. User admin to be able to create users. So if you don't have the user admin rights, we cannot create users, maintain user IDs, or even delete those users. We got to have user admin. Version admins for multiple versions and release management. Maybe you are running a support project. Version 1, version 2, version 3 for support, production support. And you want to maintain those version IDs in your transport. So you should have version admin rights to be able to run version management for your developments and transports. Yep, so that's a list of all these standard privileges. So we want to have, for this user, Z user PR, we want to grant this user a catalog read so the user can read all the catalog schemas. Data admin, credential admin, export import. We want to give this user role admin so user can create roles, assign roles, and then user admin. Some of these standard privileges, not all, because this user is just an application consultant. If you're an administrator, you may want to have all of those. Object privilege, the next tab. Object privilege is for a database object. Could be a schema, could be a table, could be a view. By default, as we've indicated earlier, when a user ID gets created, by default, a schema in the name of the user ID is also auto-created. So this user can work with his own user ID specific schema and load tables, test, create tables, delete as a local workspace. Plus, we can also grant other object privileges for that user. Maybe this user is allowed to work with a table Mara, for example. All right. Let's go here with Mara, any one of the schema. So we want this user to have access for only select from the Mara table, but not delete, or drop, or alter. So when this developer application consultant log on, the user will have access to his own schema and this other schema related table Mara, for example. Now, let's also select another schema. Let's select a system schema completely. For example, select. So let's remove this option. Yeah. So here we have a schema and a particular table from that same schema. So far, we're giving rights for both select from all the tables from this schema system, and select from this particular table Mara. Now, we will give another authorization with the delete, for example, here. Select and delete. For this table only, Mara, from that system standard schema. Now, please make a note that whenever there are overlapping authorization objects to a user or to a role, by default, any overlapping authorization objects will be unioned, meaning will be merged. And then the result of the union will be granted to that user. In this example here, we're giving rights to the complete system schema to be able to select. But for the same schema, for one of the particular table in that schema, we're giving here delete with the select. So now there is an overlapping authorization, one on top of the other. For that table, Mara, the user can delete. But for the rest of the other tables, user cannot delete, but can have access to select. Right? That's an important point. Next, analytic privilege. So we will assign the one that we've created yesterday. So we go here into this one, package privilege. We will select our package ID, Z underscore package underscore SCM. Let's go to the PR, click OK. And remember the slideshow with the slide with the package privilege, repo.read, etc. You can see that in the right-hand side with these checkboxes here. So repo.read, we want to allow this trainer user to have access to this package to be able to read, but not change. Or you want to allow change, so you select repo.edit, activate, to be able to activate after the changes, and to create sub-packages for that given package only, not for the rest of all the other packages. So we can give selective package development rights to given developer or user for the package privileges. Now, please also make a note, and that is right here below if I scroll down. It's given here that in some special cases, your client is asking you to directly change on the production system. Some of us may have encountered those requirements. And we know that the production system is not open for any changes, because production system is the real system where the customer use for their operations and productions and the reporting and all of those real-time activities. So that's not officially open for any direct changes. For any changes, we do the change in development system, transport, test, and then run it to the production. But in some very rare cases, due to the high priority demand of the users, there could be some cases that you are authorized to directly change on a production package and the views. You got to have this repo.edit imported packages. Objects. Repo.activate imported objects, and repo.maintain imported packages if you want to create subfolders. The information given here that the imported objects should normally only be changed by the re-imports. Makes sense. But in rare cases, you're required to make direct fixes or direct repair in the production system on that imported packages. Maybe a testing system or a production system. Your customer approves and you try, but you're not knowing that you don't have this. You try, but it will not allow you to make changes. So come back here for user authorization, select these checkboxes, and then activate your user ID, and then you'll be able to make those changes. Maybe you need to log off and log on, or maybe restart the studio. Moving on, next, application privilege is for those applications running on top of HANA. It could be a web service through UI5. It could be the ERP on HANA or a BI on HANA, right? So it could have multiple applications that could be running on top of HANA. We want to go with the tracing, for example. And then the last tab here, privileges on the user for that grantor. Maybe we also want the grantor user to have certain access to our schema with debugging. Okay, so we go here to the right-hand corner. There is a icon to activate the user. So now the user is activated. You got to remember the password. When you remember the password, let's see how we can add our user to our navigator panel. Here we are only seeing IDS with the user database user system. We're all using the same user ID. Let's see how we can add our own user ID. Right click. You see a small context menu. We'll come back to this context menu in our other administrative session, but we want to select add system with a different user. Select this option. Remember the user ID. And the password, initial password. I think the user ID was incorrect. I think it should be ZUser, right? ZUser PR. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So now when I click on Finish, it's asking to change the old password with a new password. Until and unless you sign it, you'll not be able to log on to that host. To see here, additional property, not able to log on to the host, because we have to provide the correct credentials. So we're going to offer the initial password first, and then the individual password for that user. So I'm going to give my own individual password. Click OK, and here we are. Password for the user ZUser PR changed. Click OK, and we have it here. Our own user ID. Now you see the database user is ZUser PR. Please practice after the session. So this user is added here. Let's go back to the system, because the system is the creator of this user. Yep. So let's go back to the user ID. The user PR. Yeah. And what do we assign here? We assign some roles, certain privileges, object, analytic, package privilege. So we've given our package to this user. Yep. Our package was Z package SCM_PR to this user. Now, let's do something beyond this single package. Let's think about some super authorizations. Well, they're not related with these training, but I'll give you that from a project standpoint. Let's create a super role. Let's create a new role. ZUser PR with the same user ID. You will also be required to create your own user and your own user role. So for this super role, we will not derive anything from other role. So we will pick up the system privilege. So far good. Object privilege, okay. But we want to look into the audio check, audio check. Audio check. Audio check. Audio okay? All right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. So we were here at this particular creating a new role, ZUser PR role, and we are looking at some super authorizations. The super authorization exists for these two privileges, analytic privilege and package privilege. these two. Remember that the Annuity Privilege that we created yesterday was only for a few of the views. Now what if you want to assign a Annuity Privilege to have access to all the views and then run the report irrespective of the name or the creator or the restrictions in that view? So we want to give SAP all equivalent privilege. So when you click on the green plus sign, you will see a super privilege with a name here, ZSYS_BI_CP_all. Yeah, the CP all means content privilege all, like SAP all, only for reporting purposes. Super authorization. Maybe there is a super user process owner and the sponsor at the top who wants to check everything and then give you the sign off and give you the signal you can go live. In those cases, you don't want to restrict the user, right? You want to make sure that everything works. Give a super authorization for that end user. Next, package privilege. When you click here on green plus, we will be able to see all of those package names that are created in the system, that are there, created by multiple users and developers. Maybe that every time a package is created, do we need to go back to the administrator asking authorization to that new package, and then the new package got deleted and then another new package got created? It's just like creating folders, and then you don't want to keep tracking folders. So as an application consultant developer or a application architect, you should have this one. You see here, root package. If you have the root package authorization, you have the rights to all the views across all the packages that are active today or that could be created tomorrow in the future. Whatever is the package ID, name, restriction, views, definitions, formula, you'll be able to see that. And it makes a lot of sense for a application consultant to have the root package. Yeah, because every time a package is created, deleted by a lot of developers, but we want to keep track of through a super authorization. So root package is an important object. So you may want to have read, edit, activate, maintain for that root package. Maybe some special authorizations with the repo for the important objects. Yep. And let's activate this role. Oh, it already exists? Oh, I should give here instead of user. Sorry about that. Should be Z role. Z role underscore PR. Yeah, works. So now the role is created. We go here into the roles. We go here with the sequence. Z role PR exists. Let's assign this role to the user that we've created. So for that, we're going to go into the user folder and go here, Z user PR, and go here to the granted roles and give that Z role ZR, and then assign it activate this user. Close it. You can also refresh this user ID by right-clicking and refreshing here. Okay? So let's see what's here for this user. Catalog. User will have access to all of these areas. And now you see here Z user PR in the catalog folder as a schema. So if this user happens to to upload any Excel file or work with their own user ID specific schemas, you can have that schema for your user ID. Yeah, please practice after the session to create your own user ID, roles, grant, and add here in the Navigator panel. And of course, all of those packages, because this user is now having access to the root package. So this user has successfully been created and added here. Let's see how this user can connect from outside HANA to here. Okay, I'm going to close the studio. Let's use a very simple tool that everybody's aware of, Microsoft Excel. So let's go here into Excel. Let's go here, Microsoft Excel, because I want to show you how we connect 2010 Excel. Yeah. Go up here in the menu bar from Data. Select from other sources. This is how we usually, as a business analyst, connect our Excel to a lot of other sources. Yep. Likewise, you're going to select from other sources and click here from Data with OLEDB. Select here. We don't want to connect to SQL Server or other systems. We want to select Other. So select Other, Advanced. Click here on Next. And then scroll down. We'll see here SAP HANA MDX Provider. This is the name of a connector available for free download from Microsoft and SAP for that valid SAP HANA installation number. This connector is the OLEDB and it communicates with the MDX, that stands for multi-dimensional expressions. So select this provider, click here on Next, and give the details of your HANA system. Remember those details? It's up here at the header of the Quick Launch. System ID, system user, host name, and the instance number. We want to use our user ID User PR to be able to connect with the host name HANA SP8, instance number 00. So we go back into the Excel. We're going to offer the same parameter names. HANA SP8, instance number 00. The user ID was that user PR, and then the password. Test the connection. It works. Click OK. Click OK here. As soon as you click OK, you'll be able to have access to all of those packages that we have in the system. Yep. So, for example, SCMPR package, so package 01, you have here those Analytic Privilege, for example, or sorry, Analytic Views, for example. Select, click Next, and you'll be able to see your data set. Oops, I think I have to log on again. I just clicked outside. I have to re-provide a password. So it will ask the user credential 2 times. 1 to connect, 2nd to render data to the Excel. Okay. Let's close this and do it again. Yeah, here it is. Okay, password. Okay. Okay. Just hold on. Oh yeah, I just clicked earlier to close the Excel, so let's do it again, no problem. All programs, Excel, here, data from the menu, other sources, SAP HANA MDX Provider, details for connecting, HANA SP8, 00, user Z user PR, test the connection, click OK, go to your package, and then the view, next, finish, yes, OK, re-provide the password. Do you want to try to connect using the new connection? No. Well, it should be able to show us, but anyway, I wanted to give you this extra detail and practice that later. Yep. So when you provide a password, you'll be able to see a pivot table and embedded here in Excel. To the right hand side, this is the field list, and then to the left hand side, this is the result set area. So I'm going to select those KPIs, for example, deductions and revenue and net revenue, for example, with a hierarchy, like, for example, Gregorian hierarchy, which was part of the view, and Gregorian hierarchy with those details for the year, quarter, month, week. Yep. And or else we go here to the material number wise. Or if you want to auto select the customer ID, for example, customer ID wise material number, which is the product number. You can also put the material group, all of those filter conditions available as far as the attributes that come in here from your backend view. Yep. So please check that, check this particular, and then you already know Excel. You can use conditional formatting, you can use a pivot chart, the OLAP tools, what-if analysis, and for expert Excel users, you can do something else with the Visual Basics for application VBA scripting. Right-click here, select View Code, and then you'll be having access to that particular worksheet, and then you can write your own Visual Basics here. In one of my earlier project done in Germany, they had a requirement for the business consolidations. Once we run the report, they were not using any other advanced reporting tool because they were much convenient working with Excel, and Excel advantage is that you can do further custom coding at the report. So we were using VBA, Visual Basics for Application, created our own toolbar in the Excel, and then we exported the data. We locked some of the columns automatically, and then we allowed the user, because the locked columns were for actuals, and the planned columns were showing area to write the planned data by the planning team. So once they write the planned data against the actual cannot be manipulated because it is all locked. So after that, they save and then upload it, and then we were able to connect to the BCS system, business consolidations. So there could be a lot of those extra development. Right? Please check those. You can have the VBA with the macros, something related to the macros. Yep. So the user can do a doc analysis using Excel, no problem. And further conditional formatting, let's say, for example, you want to get into a color code or a color scale, red, yellow, green. If the gross revenue is less than 50,000, then it should be red. 50 to 100,000, it should be yellow. Anything over 100,000 should be green. You could apply those Excel features. Yep. So this is what we have here for tonight. I would like to ask you to log on right now and be able to create your user IDs, roles, and assign your roles to the user, assign the privilege to the user, activate the user, and then be able to add your user ID here in the Navigator panel and open Excel and check what if you can connect from your user ID to your package views. Please practice right now if okay, and I would be requesting you to log on, and I will take leave now so that you can practice. I will be leaving the session. You can also communicate to each other if you have any things that you like to share with the development. But my request, please practice. It's very, very important for your future projects. You should be able to create your user IDs and add it and connect it. Yeah.
Ask you a question?
Yep.
Yeah, you know, like when you were giving access, you gave access for the root packages. In this way, that user have access to every package, and they can do anything to it isn't this going to cause a problem of stepping on each other? Or, by mistake?
Yeah,
How
the
do
root package is only for special cases, as informed earlier. It's only for special cases for an enterprise architect or a solution architect that if you want to check a package or if you want to be able to gain access, because a solution architect or enterprise architect should be in a position to be able to check, test, and give the green signal for transport and other sign-off. So only those special cases you may want to have the super authorization, not for all developers.
So let's say in real life, if I'm working on a project and I want to isolate my environment, and so so nobody can they can look at it, but they cannot step over it. Is there a way you can just secure private where everybody can see it but not be able to modify it?
Yeah, so for that you will use repo.read, access to the package privilege. So all the other users will only have repo.read but not change your package, but they can only see your package views.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Thanks.
Hello, Parab.
Yep.
Parab, one small question I want to squeeze in. Actually, regarding the roles you have mentioned, that if there is an overlapping of roles, for example, then it will be merged. For example, you have given examples of the system role and you have created a role of delete, right? So if there is a merger, the in that case delete is getting nullified, right? Because delete is not there in the system role, right?
No, it is unified. It will be unioned. That is what I meant by merge. It will be unioned together. It will not be canceled or nullified. It will be added and a part of that authorization. Yeah.
Okay, so it will be an addition. Means it will be unified. Means delete will also be there on top of the other roles will be there.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing. Can you please arrange the tech training people to send their slides for this security authorization which you have shared?
For tonight's slide, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
We'll do that. Okay. My request to everybody is please practice. I see a lot of your packages with empty folders. You've just created one view, but I don't want to be completely following up on that, but I want you to, practice to have your attribute views, analytic views created, and then you start creating your user IDs with a role and check if you can connect that user from Excel. If it's able to connect from Excel, it can connect from any other reporting tools, and then plus be able to add your user ID here in the Navigator panel studio.
Ryan, one more question, sorry. When you're talking about if I were not to give a root package authorization, it means if I created user under my own, then if I don't give root package authorization, then my packages from the system will not be, I cannot access them under my user. So
you can see it, but you'll not.
Is there a way I can move and be able to work on them in my own under my own user ID rather than the system? Can you do that?
Moving is done for other activities. Moving here means you are removing from the original location and then you're moving to a new location.
Copy, for example, let's say, so far what have I done? Let's say I want to copy it over into my user and work over there for, just to see if I can isolate into your own private user without the root package authorization. Can you do that?
Yeah, that is what we did exactly. We just assigned that user Z user PR initially with only one package. So that user can work with his own package, and the rest of the other users are not having repo read to your package. So okay. it's in a way that you're isolating your package for your user that you can change, activate. But over and above that, I've added root package just to help extend further that if you want to own all of those packages before you go prep, in those cases it may be helpful.
Just one more thing. In real life, when you work on a project professionally, do you do that? I mean, you work in your own area, and then when you implement, when you're ready, then you how that happens in the real life, you know?
Yeah, it depends upon the role that we are in. Let's say we are an application consultant with the rights of just to create packages. We will only have access to that package and not other user packages. But if you are a solution architect, you should have access to all of those packages and views. So depending upon the role, the authorizations have to be arranged or granted.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So I would request everybody to log on right now and then practice to create your user IDs and the roles and grant it and check and then connect and then add your user ID here to the Navigator panel. Yep. This is important practice. That's why I'm recommending all to log on and practice. If you have any remaining views that are not, or any pending views which are not yet created, please utilize this time to create your views so that we are all synchronized and then we can proceed further with advanced areas of developments and transport, security, reporting, etc.
Param, this is Rao. I have one question. Are the GRC rules applicable to the HANA also?
Yes, the GRC rules are applicable to HANA through IDM and MDG. That's a new component available. GRC, as if you're referring to a earlier version of GRC, it's not directly applicable in a way that GRC cannot directly connect to HANA. But now GRC got merged with the MDM. Now we have MDG and then IDM able to connect to HANA, and those rules are applicable with HANA users, HANA security.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so we will close the session here for tonight, but meantime I would request everybody to log on right away and follow the steps. You can refer and open the existing user, ZUser PR in one tab, and another tab, create your user by referring those details, and then practice, and then add, activate, and then check and test if you can connect to your user package view from your user ID. That's a practice that's important. All right, we're going to connect tomorrow, same time, and this is what we have here for tonight. In tomorrow's session, we proceed further with other areas with transports, and we will focus on those 3 types of transports. Take care. Have a good one. We're going to connect tomorrow, same time. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.